Under the blinding lights of the wrestling ring, heroes are made and broken. Cheers fill the arena. But behind the glitz and glamour lies a world unseen, a world of sacrifice, pain, and hard choices. Nikki and Brie Bella became icons, trailblazers who redefined women's wrestling, but their journey was far from the perfect story fans believed. Beneath the championships and reality TV fame was a struggle that few truly understood, a battle that extended far beyond the ring. Before the fame, before the global recognition, they were just two sisters chasing a dream. But dreams demand sacrifice. Their journey through the ruthless world of professional wrestling was filled with pain, betrayal, and relentless pressure. From the shadows of small-town life to the bright lights of WWE, this is their untold story. The rise, the fall, and the harsh reality behind the fame. Born 16 minutes apart, Stephanie Nicole Garcia Coles and Brianna Monique Garcia Coles entered the world on November 21st, 1983, in San Diego, California. Raised on a modest farm in Scottsdale, Arizona, their childhood was far from the glamour that would later define their careers. The twin sisters grew up surrounded by hard work, discipline, and the values instilled by their Mexican-Italian heritage. Their parents, John Garcia and Kathy Coles, were determined to provide them with a stable upbringing, but life was not without its challenges. Their father, once a promising athlete himself, struggled with personal demons that often created tensions in the household. Their mother, a strong and independent woman, worked tirelessly to support her daughters, teaching them resilience and perseverance, qualities that would become crucial in their journey ahead. As children, Nikki and Brie found solace in sports, excelling in soccer and other competitive activities. Their natural athleticism set them apart, but it was their unbreakable bond as twins that made them a force to be reckoned with. From an early age, they understood the power of teamwork, often relying on each other when life threw obstacles in their path. They dreamed of a future beyond the dusty Arizona fields, one filled with excitement, passion, and the ability to make a name for themselves. But dreams, as they would soon learn, are never handed out freely. The road to success would be filled with sacrifices, setbacks, and battles they never saw coming. Their ambitions extended beyond the boundaries of their small-town upbringing, but the path to success was anything but clear. After graduating from Chaparral High School, Nikki and Brie pursued soccer with the hope of making it professionally. Nikki, in particular, had her heart set on the sport, earning a scholarship to play at Grossmont College in San Diego. However, a severe leg injury shattered her dreams, forcing her to reconsider her future. It was a devastating blow, one that left her questioning her identity and purpose. Brie, on the other hand, had already started contemplating a different path, one that involved entertainment, modeling, and acting. Together, they decided to take a leap of faith, leaving behind the familiarity of home in search of something bigger. Their first break came in 2006 when they participated in the WWE Diva Search, an annual competition designed to discover new female talent. Though they didn't win, the exposure opened doors, and the twins soon found themselves under WWE's radar. They were offered developmental contracts and sent to Florida Championship Wrestling, FCW, where they trained rigorously to prove themselves. It was here that the transformation from Stephanie and Brianna Garcia Coles to Nikki and Brie Bella truly began. Every day was a test, grueling physical drills, hours of training, and the pressure to mold themselves into the perfect WWE superstars. They weren't just learning how to wrestle. They were learning how to survive in an industry that didn't easily welcome outsiders, especially women who were seen as mere accessories to the male-dominated world of professional wrestling. The training at Florida Championship Wrestling was brutal, both physically and mentally. Every slam against the mat sent shockwaves through their bodies. Every failed move a reminder that they were still outsiders fighting for respect. Unlike many of their male counterparts, the Bella twins had no wrestling lineage to fall back on, no family legacy to justify their presence in the ring. They had to earn everything. The trainers were relentless, pushing them beyond their limits, testing their endurance, strength, and resilience. Some days, the pain was unbearable, but quitting was never an option. They had already sacrificed too much to turn back now. Beyond the ropes, the locker room was a battlefield of its own. The wrestling industry was still deeply entrenched in a culture that valued appearance over ability when it came to women. They were judged not by their talent, but by how marketable they could be. For Nikki and Brie, this was infuriating. They wanted to be taken seriously, to prove they weren't just another pair of divas thrown into the mix for eye candy. To do that, they had to work twice as hard, take every opportunity, and make themselves indispensable. Slowly but surely, they began to earn the respect of their peers, proving they were more than just pretty faces. The Bella twins weren't just here to fit in. They were here to change the game. Their hard work paid off when they made their official WWE debut on August 29, 2008, during an episode of SmackDown. Brie was introduced first, winning her first match against Victoria in what seemed like a promising start. But behind the scenes, WWE had something unique in store, the infamous twin magic gimmick. This storyline capitalized on their identical looks, allowing them to secretly switch places during matches, giving Brie an unfair advantage. Fans were intrigued, but the wrestling purists scoffed. To many in the industry, it was just another cheap trick, reinforcing the stereotype that women's wrestling was more about entertainment than skill. Despite the skepticism, the Bella twins embraced their roles, knowing that their entry into WWE was only the beginning. They weren't just performers. They were learning the business, understanding the politics, and finding ways to stand out in a division that was still largely overlooked. However, the pressures of maintaining their image became overwhelming. Every move was scrutinized, every mistake magnified. They had to be flawless, not just in the ring but in their public appearances, media obligations, and personal lives. WWE had given them a platform, but with it came an unrelenting demand to be perfect, both as athletes and as marketable stars. The weight of expectation was crushing, but the Bellas weren't about to break. Not yet. As their popularity grew, so did the demands placed upon them. WWE capitalized on their marketability, pushing them into roles that blurred the lines between wrestling and entertainment. They became fixtures in backstage segments, romantic storylines, and promotional events, often sidelined in favor of male superstars. For Nikki and Brie, it was frustrating. They wanted to be recognized for their talent inside the ring, not just for their looks. But in an era where women's wrestling was still treated as an afterthought, they had little choice but to play the game. They smiled for the cameras, performed their scripted roles, and waited for the moment when they could prove they were more than just eye candy. That moment finally came when WWE's Divas division began to shift. Fans were demanding more, calling for an evolution in women's wrestling. Sensing the change, the Bellas seized every opportunity to elevate themselves. They worked harder, trained longer, and refined their in-ring skills. Brie was the first to taste championship gold, winning the Divas Championship in 2011. Nikki followed suit a year later, proving that their presence in WWE wasn't just a gimmick. It was real. But with success came even greater pressure. They weren't just fighting opponents in the ring. They were fighting for respect, battling an industry that had never fully embraced them. And in the process, they were pushing themselves beyond limits they never thought possible. Their rise to championship status should have been a moment of triumph, but instead, it came with even harsher scrutiny. The wrestling purists dismissed them, claiming their success was based on marketability rather than skill. Online critics labeled them as models turned wrestlers, diminishing the years of effort they had put into honing their craft. Even within the locker room, there was resentment. Many female wrestlers who had spent their entire lives in the business felt the Bellas were being pushed ahead because of their looks and connection to WWE's corporate machine. Nikki and Brie heard the whispers, saw the social media attacks, and felt the weight of proving themselves every single night. Rather than let the negativity break them, they used it as fuel. Nikki, in particular, became determined to silence her critics. She revamped her in-ring style, incorporating a more aggressive and technical approach. She trained harder, lifting heavier, working through injuries, and demanding longer matches. When she won the Divas Championship again in 2014, she held it for a record-breaking 301 days, a statement to everyone who doubted her. Brie, meanwhile, embraced a more personal fight, stepping away at times to focus on family, but always returning to stand by her sister. Together, they weren't just surviving in WWE. They were changing the perception of what it meant to be a female wrestler. But with every step forward, new challenges emerged, ones that would test their strength in ways they never expected. Success came at a cost, and the more the Bella twins pushed forward, the more their bodies began to break under the pressure. The grueling WWE schedule was unforgiving. Constant travel, back-to-back matches, and an expectation to perform at peak condition no matter the circumstances. Injuries became an unavoidable reality. Brie battled nagging neck and shoulder issues, while Nikki suffered something far worse, a serious neck injury that threatened to end her career. The damage was severe, the result of years of taking brutal bumps in the ring, pushing through pain and refusing to slow down. Doctors warned her that continuing to wrestle could lead to permanent paralysis. For Nikki, hearing those words was devastating. She had fought so hard to be seen as more than just a reality TV star, more than just a diva. Wrestling was her identity, and now it was being taken away from her. While Nikki faced the possibility of never wrestling again, Brie had her own struggles. She was torn between her passion for wrestling and her desire to start a family with her husband, Daniel Bryan, who was also dealing with career-threatening injuries of his own. The emotional weight of watching the two people she loved most, her sister and her husband, struggle with pain and uncertainty was unbearable. For the first time, Brie began questioning whether the sacrifices were worth it. The same industry that had given them everything was now taking its toll, forcing them to make choices that could alter their lives forever. The Bella twins had spent years proving they were more than just pretty faces, but now they were faced with the harshest reality of all. What happens when the body gives up before the heart is ready to let go? As Nikki grappled with the devastating reality of her neck injury, she refused to accept defeat. Against the advice of many, she underwent serious neck surgery in 2016, a procedure that involved fusing vertebrae together to stabilize her spine. The recovery process was brutal. Simple movements became painful reminders of what she had lost, and the uncertainty of whether she would ever step inside a ring again haunted her. Every day was a battle. Hours of physical therapy, moments of doubt, and the constant fear that pushing too hard could leave her permanently injured. But Nikki had never been the type to back down from a fight. If there was even the slightest chance of returning to the ring, she was determined to take it. While Nikki was focused on recovery, Brie made the heartbreaking decision to step away from wrestling. In April 2016, she wrestled her final match at WrestleMania 32, closing a chapter that had defined so much of her life. Unlike her sister, Brie wasn't leaving because of injury. She was leaving because she wanted to start a family. It was an emotional farewell, one filled with gratitude and love from the fans who had supported her for years. But walking away wasn't easy. Wrestling had been her entire world, and now she was venturing into the unknown. As Nikki fought for her comeback, Brie embraced a new journey, one that would bring her joy, fulfillment, but also its own set of struggles. For the first time in their careers, the Bella twins were on separate paths, each facing their own battles, and neither knowing what the future held. The separation of their careers marked a pivotal moment in their lives. Brie embraced motherhood, welcoming her first child in 2017, while Nikki embarked on a grueling journey back to the ring. Against all odds, she made a shocking return at SummerSlam 2018, teaming up with Ronda Rousey in what was supposed to be a triumphant comeback. But the wrestling world had changed in her absence. The women's evolution had taken full force. Female wrestlers were now headlining events, competing in historic matches, and proving they were just as capable as the men. While Nikki had played a role in paving the way for this movement, she quickly realized that not everyone saw her as part of it. Many fans viewed her as a relic of the Divas era, someone who had benefited from WWE's marketing rather than pure wrestling ability. The backlash was immediate, harsh, and at times, deeply personal. Determined to prove she still belonged, Nikki stepped into her biggest challenge yet. A high-profile feud with Ronda Rousey that culminated in the main event of Evolution 2018, WWE's first-ever all-women's pay-per-view. It was a defining moment, a chance to cement her legacy on her own terms. The match was brutal, testing every inch of her body, but in the end, she fell short, losing to Rousey. The defeat wasn't just a loss in the ring. It was a realization that time was catching up to her. Her body couldn't withstand the punishment anymore. And deep down, she knew her days as a wrestler were numbered. The Bella twins had fought for years to prove they were more than just reality TV stars. But now, Nikki was facing a new challenge, accepting that the fight was coming to an end. The loss to Ronda Rousey wasn't just another defeat. It was the beginning of the end. Nikki could feel it every time she stepped into the ring. The sharp stingers running down her neck, the aching pain in her spine, the unshakable fatigue that lingered long after each match. No amount of training or mental toughness could change the reality she was facing. The doctors confirmed what she already feared. Her neck injury had worsened, and continuing to wrestle could lead to permanent damage. She had fought her way back once, but this time, there was no miracle comeback. In March 2019, Nikki Bella officially announced her retirement from in-ring competition. It was a moment filled with mixed emotions. Pride for everything she had accomplished, but also sorrow for the dreams she had to let go. Brie, who had briefly returned to WWE alongside Nikki during their 2018 comeback, also decided to step away permanently. Motherhood had given her a new purpose, and she no longer felt the same fire to compete. The Bella twins had started their careers as outsiders, fought through skepticism, and carved a legacy that extended far beyond the wrestling ring. But now, for the first time in over a decade, they were stepping into an unfamiliar world, one without WWE. Wrestling had been their identity, their purpose, their home. Letting go wasn't easy, but deep down, they knew it was time. Their bodies had taken enough punishment, and their fight for respect had already been won. The Bella twins had changed the game, and now they were ready for the next chapter. Retirement didn't mean stepping away from the spotlight. If anything, it marked the beginning of a new era for the Bella twins, one where they controlled their own narrative. With wrestling behind them, they shifted their focus to business, media, and family. Their reality show, Total Bellas, had already established them as crossover stars, giving fans a deeper look into their personal lives, struggles, and triumphs. The show was a massive success, proving that their brand extended beyond WWE. But even as they embraced this new chapter, they couldn't escape the shadows of their past. Critics continued to question their contributions to women's wrestling, debating whether they had truly earned their legacy or if they had simply been in the right place at the right time. Despite the criticism, Nikki and Brie remained unapologetic. They had fought for their place in the industry, endured injuries, scrutiny, and personal struggles, yet they had still managed to become two of the most recognizable female figures in wrestling history. Their impact stretched beyond title reigns or five-star matches. They had helped push women's wrestling into the mainstream, bringing new audiences to the sport. They weren't technical wrestling purists, but they were undeniable forces of change. As they built their empire outside the ring, launching businesses, expanding their families, and continuing to inspire millions, one thing became clear. The Bella twins were more than just wrestlers. They were survivors, trailblazers, and a testament to the power of reinvention. Even as they thrived outside of WWE, the wrestling world was never far from their minds. In 2020, Nikki and Brie were announced as inductees into the WWE Hall of Fame, an honor that cemented their legacy in the industry. It was a moment of validation, a recognition of everything they had fought for, despite the doubts, criticism, and setbacks. But the celebration was bittersweet. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the ceremony was delayed, and when it finally took place in 2021, it lacked the roaring crowd that had defined so much of their careers. Still, standing on that stage, reflecting on their journey, they knew they had earned their place in wrestling history. But even with their Hall of Fame induction, the whispers of doubt remained. Some fans and even fellow wrestlers argued that they didn't belong among the legends, that their impact wasn't as significant as WWE had made it seem. Nikki and Brie could have let those words define them, but they didn't. Instead, they focused on their growing business empire, expanding their wine brand, launching a successful podcast, and continuing to build their reality TV empire. They had long outgrown the wrestling ring, proving that their worth wasn't tied to WWE alone. They had built something lasting, something that would outlive their wrestling careers. Whether the world accepted it or not, the Bella twins had left their mark, and nothing could erase that. Despite stepping away from the ring, WWE remained a part of them, and the pull of wrestling never fully disappeared. In 2022, Nikki and Brie made a surprise return at the Women's Royal Rumble, stepping back into the ring for one more moment under the bright lights. The crowd reaction was a mix of excitement and nostalgia, proof that, love them or hate them, they had left an undeniable impact. For the twins, it was a chance to reconnect with their past, to remind themselves of the fire that had once driven them. But as the final bell rang and they walked up the ramp, they knew it was time to fully embrace their future. This wasn't their world anymore, and they had made peace with that. Shortly after, they made a major announcement. They were officially dropping the Bella name and reintroducing themselves as the Garcia twins. It was a symbolic moment, shedding the WWE-created identity that had defined them for years and reclaiming their own legacy. No longer tied to the past, they were free to forge their own path. Their focus shifted entirely to their businesses, families, and new ventures in entertainment. Wrestling had given them everything, but it had also taken so much. Now, for the first time, they were in full control of their narrative. No scripts, no gimmicks, just Nikki and Brie living life on their own terms. With their new identity as the Garcia twins, Nikki and Brie fully stepped into a world beyond WWE, embracing their roles as entrepreneurs, media personalities, and mothers. They continued expanding their brand, launching fashion lines, growing their Bonita wine business, and diving deeper into television and entertainment. Their podcast, The Nikki and Brie Show, became a platform where they shared personal stories, interviewed high-profile guests, and discussed topics ranging from business to motherhood. It was a space where they could be raw, unfiltered, and completely in control of their own voices. Despite their focus on new ventures, their wrestling journey remained a key part of their story. They frequently reflected on their experiences in WWE, advocating for women's wrestling, and speaking out on the challenges they faced during their careers. While they had left the ring behind, they had not abandoned the fight for female empowerment in sports and entertainment. They had grown from two young women fighting for respect in a male-dominated industry to self-made moguls who had defied expectations at every turn. Their story was no longer just about wrestling. It was about reinvention, resilience, and proving that success is not defined by one chapter, but by the entire journey. As Nikki and Brie continued to redefine themselves outside the wrestling ring, they embraced roles that extended far beyond sports entertainment. They became business moguls, reality TV producers, and advocates for women's empowerment, using their platforms to inspire the next generation. Their personal lives flourished as well. Brie, now a mother of two, fully immersed herself in family life while balancing her entrepreneurial ventures, and Nikki, after a very public and emotional breakup with John Cena, found love again with professional dancer Artem Chigvintsev, with whom she welcomed a son in 2020. Through all the highs and lows, one thing remained constant: their unbreakable bond as sisters. They had entered the wrestling world together, fought through its challenges together, and walked away together. Now, as the Garcia twins, they had moved beyond the limitations that WWE had placed on them and built something entirely their own. They had faced scrutiny, pain, and relentless doubt, but they had never let it define them. Their journey wasn't about championships or proving themselves to critics. It It was about breaking barriers, evolving, and showing the world that strength isn't just about what happens inside the ring, but how you rise after every fall. Despite moving beyond WWE, the wrestling industry continued to follow them, with fans and media constantly questioning whether they would ever return for one last match. While they never ruled out the possibility, Nikki and Brie made it clear that their focus had shifted to new opportunities. They had already fought their battles in the ring. Now, they were fighting for something bigger: financial independence, family, and creating a lasting legacy on their own terms. Wrestling had given them a platform, but it was their determination and resilience that had turned them into household names. Still, their connection to WWE remained complicated. In interviews, they spoke candidly about the struggles they faced as women in a male-dominated industry, revealing behind-the-scenes stories of inequality, backstage politics, and personal sacrifices. They weren't afraid to challenge the narrative that had once been written for them. While some still dismissed their contributions to women's wrestling, others finally began to acknowledge their role in paving the way for the evolution that followed. Love them or hate them, the Bella twins, now the Garcia twins, had left an undeniable mark on the industry. Their journey wasn't just about wrestling. It was about breaking barriers, proving doubters wrong, and refusing to be put in a box. Whether in the ring, on reality TV, or in the business world, they had always done one thing: they fought. And they won. As time passed, Nikki and Brie fully embraced their evolution into the Garcia twins, leaving behind the limitations of their WWE personas while still honoring the journey that had brought them to this point. They became symbols of reinvention, proving that success wasn't confined to a wrestling ring. Their brand grew beyond sports entertainment, with Bonita Wine thriving, their podcast attracting millions of listeners, and their continued presence in reality television keeping them in the public eye. They had successfully transitioned from wrestlers to entrepreneurs, from reality stars to media moguls. But more than anything, they had become voices for change. They used their platforms to uplift women, advocate for better opportunities in sports and entertainment, and share the raw, unfiltered truth about their experiences. The journey had never been easy, but they had never let obstacles stop them. They had transformed their struggles into strength, their setbacks into stepping stones, and their critics into fuel. The Garcia twins were no longer just former wrestlers. They were trailblazers, survivors, and living proof that the fight never ends. It just evolves. And in the end, that was their greatest victory. As their influence continued to grow, the Garcia twins became more than just public figures. They became business pioneers and advocates for female empowerment. They expanded their ventures, stepping into new industries and proving that their legacy extended far beyond the wrestling ring. From launching successful lifestyle brands to producing their own content, they controlled their narrative in a way they never could during their WWE days. Every move they made was intentional, designed to build something that would outlast fleeting fame. But no matter how much they evolved, one truth remained: they had fought for everything they had. From the early days of being dismissed as just pretty faces to becoming champions and Hall of Famers, from facing injuries and heartbreak to reinventing themselves as business moguls, their journey was one of resilience. They had walked away from wrestling, but wrestling would always be a part of them. Their impact was undeniable, their influence still felt, and their journey still unfolding. The Garcia twins weren't just defined by where they had been, but by where they were going. And for them, the best was yet to come. As time moved forward, the Garcia twins continued to evolve, embracing every new challenge with the same determination that had defined their wrestling careers. They became mentors to aspiring female athletes, using their experiences to uplift others who faced the same struggles they once did. Whether through motivational speaking, business leadership, or advocacy for women in sports, they made it clear that their fight wasn't just for themselves. It was for the next generation. Despite leaving WWE behind, their legacy remained deeply woven into the fabric of women's wrestling. They had helped shift the narrative, proving that female wrestlers could be more than just supporting acts. They could be main event stars, business leaders, and icons in their own right. The world may have once doubted them, but they had built an empire out of that doubt. Through every victory and every setback, they had shown one undeniable truth. They were fighters, survivors, and trailblazers. And no matter where life took them next, the Garcia twins' story was far from over. As the Garcia twins embraced the next phase of their journey, they found fulfillment in giving back, mentoring young women, and using their platform to advocate for equality in sports and entertainment. They had once fought for their own place in the wrestling world, but now they were fighting for the future of women's athletics, ensuring that those who came after them wouldn't have to struggle the same way they did. Whether through business ventures, media appearances, or personal advocacy, they remained influential voices in the industry, proving that reinvention was not just possible, but necessary for growth. Their story was no longer just about wrestling. It was about defying expectations, embracing change, and creating a legacy that extended far beyond the ring. They had once been dismissed as just another pair of reality TV divas, but through perseverance, pain, and passion, they had rewritten their narrative. The Garcia twins had transformed themselves into more than just superstars. They had become icons of resilience, champions of change, and proof that the strongest fighters aren't just the ones inside the ring, but the ones who never stop pushing forward, no matter what life throws at them. As the Garcia twins continued to build their empire, they remained deeply connected to their fans, sharing their personal and professional journeys with an authenticity that resonated with millions. They had once been bound by the expectations of an industry that dictated their worth, but now they were the architects of their own success, defining their legacy on their terms. From best-selling books to successful businesses, from television appearances to advocacy work, they proved that true power lies in reinvention and perseverance. Looking back on their careers, they no longer sought validation from wrestling critics or the industry that once tried to box them in. They had already won the most important battle, owning their identity, embracing their evolution, and proving that success isn't measured by how long you stay in the ring, but by how far you go beyond it. Their wrestling days may have ended, but their story was far from over. The Garcia twins had become more than champions in WWE. They had become champions of their own destiny. And in the end, that was their greatest victory of all. With their past firmly behind them and an exciting future ahead, the Garcia twins had cemented their place in history, not just as wrestlers, but as powerful women who shattered expectations and redefined success. No longer confined by the labels placed upon them, they continued to expand their influence, proving that true greatness isn't about where you start, but how you choose to evolve. Their journey was one of resilience, sacrifice, and transformation. From two young women fighting for respect in a male-dominated industry to self-made entrepreneurs, mothers, and global icons, they had built something far greater than championships or reality TV fame. Their legacy wasn't just in what they had accomplished, but in the barriers they had broken, the opportunities they had created, and the inspiration they had given to millions. The Garcia twins had spent their entire lives proving people wrong. Now, they were living proof that the most powerful story you can write is your own. With every new chapter they embraced, the Garcia twins stood as a testament to reinvention, perseverance, and the power of self-belief. They had walked away from the ring, but the lessons they learned in WWE, resilience, hard work, and the ability to adapt, stayed with them. Their story had transcended wrestling, touching the lives of fans who saw in them the courage to chase their own dreams, no matter the odds. They had fought their way to the top, endured scrutiny, and emerged stronger than ever. But their greatest triumph wasn't in the titles they won or the records they broke. It was in proving that success is never confined to one arena. They had stepped into the unknown and built a future on their own terms. No longer just the Bella twins, no longer just wrestlers, they had become something even greater, legends of their own making. And for the Garcia twins, the best was still yet to come. As the Garcia twins continued to carve out their legacy, they embraced the freedom that came with fully owning their narrative. They were no longer bound by scripts, match outcomes, or industry expectations. They had built an empire that extended beyond wrestling, a legacy of empowerment, entrepreneurship, and authenticity. Their success was no longer measured by title reigns or TV ratings, but by the lasting impact they had on fans, aspiring athletes, and women striving to break barriers in their own fields. Looking ahead, their journey remained unwritten, filled with endless possibilities. Whether in business, entertainment, or personal growth, the Garcia twins had proven that evolution wasn't just necessary, it was inevitable. They had started as underdogs, fought their way to the top, and redefined what it meant to be champions. Now, they stood as role models, entrepreneurs, and pioneers, proof that the greatest victories are not just the ones won in the ring, but the ones won in life. Their story wasn't just one of wrestling. It was one of reinvention, resilience, and the unstoppable power of believing in yourself. As time moved forward, the Garcia twins remained unstoppable, constantly evolving, innovating, and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Their journey had never been about staying in one place. It had been about growth, transformation, and proving that success was limitless. They had built a name that extended beyond WWE, beyond wrestling, and beyond the expectations that had once confined them. No longer defined by the past, they looked toward the future with confidence. Their legacy was already written, not just in championships, but in the lives they had touched, the barriers they had broken, and the inspiration they had provided to millions. They had once fought for a place in the wrestling world, but now they had built a world of their own, one where they controlled the narrative, owned their success, and continued to inspire. For the Garcia twins, the journey was far from over. In many ways, it was only just beginning. With each passing year, the Garcia twins continued to evolve, embracing new ventures and opportunities that kept them at the forefront of entertainment, business, and empowerment. They had long outgrown the labels placed upon them, proving time and time again that they were more than just former wrestlers or reality TV stars. They were visionaries, entrepreneurs, and women who had redefined success on their own terms. As they looked ahead, the future remained limitless. Their journey had shown the world that reinvention wasn't just possible, it was powerful. They had built a legacy that would inspire generations to come, a testament to hard work, resilience, and the refusal to be placed in a box. Their story was no longer just about where they came from, it was about where they were going. And for the Garcia twins, the road ahead was filled with infinite possibilities. Through every challenge, every reinvention, and every triumph, the Garcia twins had proven that their story was one of resilience, transformation, and fearless ambition. They had stepped beyond the ring, beyond the expectations of critics, and into a world they had built for themselves, one where they dictated their own success. As they moved forward, they carried with them the lessons of their past, but they were no longer defined by it. They were no longer just the sisters who fought for respect in WWE. They were pioneers, business moguls, and inspirations to millions. Their journey had been filled with highs and lows, but in the end, it wasn't about the obstacles they faced. It was about how they overcame them. For the Garcia twins, the fight was never just about proving others wrong. It was about proving to themselves that they could achieve anything. And with that mindset, their greatest victories were still yet to come. With every step forward, the Garcia twins continued to break barriers, embracing a future that was entirely their own. They had defied the odds, silenced their critics, and transformed themselves into a force beyond wrestling, a brand, a movement, and an inspiration for those who dared to dream beyond expectations. Their legacy was no longer just about championship reigns or television ratings. It was about perseverance, about standing tall in the face of doubt, and about proving that success is never limited to one arena. The Garcia twins had built something far greater than a wrestling career. They had built an empire, and as they stepped into the next chapter of their lives, one truth remained clear. Their story was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. As the Garcia twins embraced their ever-evolving journey, they stood as living proof that reinvention is the key to longevity. No longer confined to the world of wrestling, they had built something far greater, a legacy of strength, ambition, and fearlessness. They had refused to let the limitations of the industry define them, instead forging a new path, one that allowed them to thrive on their own terms. Their impact stretched beyond the wrestling ring, beyond television screens, and beyond the expectations placed upon them. They had become more than just superstars. They were entrepreneurs, mentors, and pioneers who had redefined success. The world had once tried to dictate their worth, but in the end, they had written their own story, one of resilience, power, and endless possibilities. And as they moved forward into the future, one thing was certain: the best was still yet to come. With every new endeavor, the Garcia twins continued to push boundaries, proving that their influence extended far beyond the wrestling industry. They had transformed themselves into powerful businesswomen, role models, and cultural icons, embracing their evolution with confidence and determination. No longer confined by expectations, they thrived in a world they had built for themselves, one filled with opportunity, innovation, and purpose. As they looked ahead, their mission remained clear: to inspire, to lead, and to continue breaking barriers for the next generation. Their journey had been one of struggle, sacrifice, and triumph, but through it all, they had never lost sight of who they were or what they stood for. The Garcia twins had proven that success wasn't about where you started, but about how you adapted, how you grew, and how you never stopped fighting for what you believed in. And with that mindset, their legacy would live on, not just in wrestling history, but in the countless lives they had touched along the way. Through every chapter of their lives, the Garcia twins had proven that true success is built on resilience, reinvention, and the courage to embrace change. They had stepped beyond the confines of the wrestling ring and into a world where they defined their own legacy, one not dictated by championships, but by the impact they had on others. Their journey was no longer about proving themselves to an industry that once underestimated them. It was about carving out a future where they thrived as business leaders, mothers, and role models. They had faced setbacks, endured scrutiny, and risen stronger every time. Now, they stood at the peak of their evolution, fearless, unstoppable, and limitless. And as they continued to write the next chapter of their lives, one thing remained certain: the Garcia twins were far from finished. Their legacy would not just be remembered, it would continue to inspire for generations to come. With each passing year, the Garcia twins solidified their place as pioneers of reinvention, proving that success is not just about where you come from, but about how you adapt, evolve, and continue pushing forward. They had broken barriers in wrestling, transformed themselves into business moguls, and inspired millions along the way. Their journey was never just about championships or fame. It was about defying expectations and proving that true power lies in taking control of your own destiny. As they looked toward the future, their mission remained clear: to build, to inspire, and to leave a lasting impact. They had spent years fighting for respect in a world that doubted them, but now they stood firmly in their own power, shaping their legacy with every move they made. For the Garcia twins, the fight had never been just about wrestling. It had been about proving that no matter the odds, you can create the life you dream of. And as they continued their journey, one truth remained: their greatest achievements were still yet to come. As the Garcia twins moved forward, they embraced the limitless possibilities that lay ahead. They were no longer just wrestlers, no longer just reality stars. They were architects of their own empire. Every move they made was a testament to their resilience, their evolution, and their refusal to be defined by the past. Their story had been filled with challenges, doubts, and obstacles, but through it all, they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. They had proven that true power comes from reinvention, from refusing to settle, and from constantly striving for more. Their journey wasn't just about breaking barriers. It was about setting new standards for what was possible. And as they stepped boldly into the future, one thing remained certain: the Garcia twins were not done. Their legacy was still being written, and the best was yet to come. With every step into the future, the Garcia twins continued to redefine what it meant to be unstoppable. They had risen from the world of wrestling, conquered the entertainment industry, and built thriving businesses, all while staying true to themselves. What had once been a fight for respect had transformed into something far greater, a movement of empowerment, resilience, and ambition. Their journey had never been easy, but that was exactly what made their legacy so powerful. They had faced every challenge head-on, shattered expectations, and created a future that was entirely their own. Now, as they stood at the peak of their evolution, one thing was clear. Their impact would last far beyond their time in the ring, inspiring generations to come. The Garcia twins were not just a name. They were a symbol of strength, reinvention, and the unwavering belief that anything is possible. And their story, it was far from over. As the Garcia twins stepped into the next phase of their journey, they carried with them the lessons, triumphs, and battles that had shaped them. No longer confined to a single industry, they had built a brand that transcended wrestling, a name synonymous with perseverance, ambition, and reinvention. What started as a fight for recognition had transformed into a mission to inspire, to uplift, and to pave the way for those who would come after them. Their legacy was no longer just about their past. It was about their future. They had shown the world that success is not about where you begin, but about how you adapt, grow, and continue striving for more. The Garcia twins had rewritten their story time and time again, proving that evolution is the key to greatness. And as they looked ahead, one thing was certain. Their journey was still unfolding, their empire still expanding, and their impact still growing. The best was not behind them. It was still to come. As the Garcia twins moved forward, they embraced the limitless possibilities of their future, unburdened by the expectations of the past. They had spent years proving themselves, first in wrestling, then in business, and now in a world where they controlled their own narrative. Their empire was no longer just about their names. It was about the legacy they were building, one of resilience, empowerment, and fearlessness. Their journey had been filled with obstacles, but every challenge had only made them stronger. They had turned criticism into motivation, setbacks into stepping stones, and doubts into undeniable success. Now, standing at the height of their influence, they knew one thing for certain. Their story was far from over. The Garcia twins had never been ones to settle, and as they looked toward the horizon, they saw only new opportunities, new challenges, and new ways to make an impact. Their greatest chapter had yet to be written, and they were ready to create it on their own terms.